Thank you very much for joining us. San Francisco, as you well know, has a long history in Chinese society. Sue Lee is with us right now, and she is Executive Director of the Chinese Historical Society. Nice to see you again, Sue.
Nice to be here.
The history does go back a long ways, doesn't it?
It sure does, 160 years.
Yeah,
that's all.
That's older than I am. A lot of people didn't know that.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay, now you've got a new exhibit coming up in the museum, is that right?
Yes, yes. So we're the Chinese Historical Society of America Museum. And in April, we opened a new show called Remnants, where we want to be known as the intersection of art and history. For 50 years, the Historical Society has been toiling in the fields, if you will, trying to tell the stories of Chinese in America and to inform people about our history. But we also have a legacy of artists.
Okay, let me stop here 1 second. Trying to trace back the history must be a difficult thing because people came over here and nothing was kept.
That's right.
I mean, they just arrived here, you know, on ships and different things they brought over here.
Yes.
So organizing that kind of historical background, I think, would be very difficult.
And we've been doing it for 50 years. So 50 years ago, a group of Chinese Americans decided to start documenting our own history because nobody else was doing it.
Yeah, nobody had done it.
So we, as the museum, have the legacy of their collections, their oral histories, their art, the artifacts that they collected from early communities, the stories that community members have passed, families have passed down from generation to generation. And so now we realize that we need to reach a much wider audience, and by incorporating artwork that has been inspired by our history into our museum, it opens us up to audiences of all ages and of all backgrounds. Okay. So this new Remnants show we've invited 5 artists to create pieces specifically for our museum so that their installations are shown side by side with our historic displays. And so their interpretation of the history and their the passion and the inspiration that they draw from our history is then displayed for our visitors. And people resonate with that artwork in a very different way than just seeing kind of cut and dried, you know, historical displays.
Well, was it, the name escapes me right now, was it Wong, David Wong? There was an artist I used to see at the Young Museum would come in and give exhibits. And he was painting birds. I mean, he was fantastic.
Are you thinking about Don Kingman?
Maybe. And anyway, it was somebody who was able to, with 4 or 5 brush strokes. You know, I had a sort of an art background myself, and I was fascinated by, you know, by this and for flowers and for birds and things of that nature. It was a wonderful exhibit of things. Now, you're going to have that kind of thing there?
Well, it's a little different. So we have a photographer who has taken photographs of his own family in the 70s. And at that time, as a second generation family, what did Chinese Americans do in their everyday life to define themselves as being American? You know? So you have photographs of a Chinese family going through, you know, where the kids become Boy Scouts and are playing baseball and are playing cowboys and Indians. And so, you know, we're just as American as everybody else.
We have a lot of Chinese cowboys. Didn't know about that.
That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, right.
We've invited other artists who are collage artists who find old objects and then create pieces that are inspired by our history. And they have a story to tell.
Well, let's remind everybody before we run out of time that it is an ongoing exhibit, right?
Yes.
Okay, and the address again is?
We're at 965 Clay Street, below Powell, and we're in the old Chinatown YWCA, a Julia Morgan building. So our building is our biggest, oldest artifact. And then the exhibit is fantastic because the artwork that these artists have created is just something that you want to share with other people.
Well, you can do that. Sue Lee has been our guest. Thank you very much for joining us.